U.S. men's national team, where do we go from here? So, disappointing to say the least, the result yesterday. Filming this today after a little time to think it over, kind of listen to different people, their perspectives of the game. And you just have to shake your head at the performance that was put on by the team. People are saying, oh, it was their worst performance of the tournament. What a time to have their worst performance of the tournament. But I look at it as this was the performance we had seen in the build-up up to the World Cup. I feel that this is what they had shown previously, that perhaps what we were seeing in this tournament was an anomaly, was, yes, flashes of what they could be, but could they sustain it over a long period of time? When you look at other countries, the premier soccer, football countries of the world, they're able to put these results in over long periods of time, over numerous matches. And I feel that this squad just has not been able to do that, unfortunately. And then last night, you knew that playing a team like Belgium, who's not even, some would say, one of the top teams in the world, but even playing against a team like that, the U.S. was going to have to play a perfect game. Unfortunately, that perfect game did not happen. They might have even been able to get away with a couple mistakes here or there, but it was more of the location of the mistakes that did them in. When you look at a player being able to get to the line and able to get the ball crossed with no problems into the box, that's always going to create problems. What makes it even worse is that the player is going 1v2. When you see that player go 1v2, there's no way that ball can get into the box. Due to lack of defending, that happens. Second play, second goal, you see a player, your center back, who has to be one of the strongest and best players on your team, and obviously the best defensive player, simply get out-muscled. And if it was football season, American football season, I would say he got mossed, because that's what happened. The player simply went up, got the ball, and was able to do more with it. That cannot happen at this level. And so now you're down, you've given up 2 goals in a very simple fashion, one coming right after you were able to score. And I think that truly just took the wind out of everyone's sails. And then the team just never was able to get it back on track, if it ever was on track, or any hope of getting it on track. So you have to look at the makeup of the team. And I think we have to look at the fact that MLS is a good league, but it is not one of the top leagues. And when you look at it that way, you have to say you simply cannot have not even a majority, but a large number of your players on your roster playing in MLS. You certainly cannot have backline players playing in MLS. Those players need to be in higher leagues with more on the games, with more development potential than playing MLS. MLS is a cushion league. Look at where the top players go at the end of their careers. They go to MLS, plain and simple. The list, very few players are coming, if any, are coming to MLS in their prime. Very few teams are sending out potential players that they feel can be big parts of their clubs to MLS. Now, granted, part of that is due to the fact that the MLS schedule is opposite the rest of the world, so that makes it tough to do something like that. But you simply do not see teams around the world using MLS. You simply do not see teams around the world pulling a lot of talent out of MLS. I think that's something that needs to be looked at. That is something that needs to be addressed. Why is it that we are not developing players that other higher leagues want? It's too few and far between of the players that are, I won't even say playing in Europe, but what about the young talent that other teams are saying, hey, this player has potential, let's bring them into our system, see what they can do. That needs to be developed. When you look at other clubs around Europe, there are plenty of clubs who have made it their model to get the young players, develop them, and then sell them on to the big clubs. And by selling them on to the big clubs, it fuels and covers the cost of those middle clubs to develop even more talent and to eventually push themselves up the ladder. There's nothing wrong with doing that. I feel a big problem, probably for another discussion, is the fact that MLS wants to everyone in the world to look at them as a league that they are not. They are not a top league. Nobody would say they're a top league. Anybody who knows the game would not say they're a top league. And until that can be addressed, I think that is going to be a huge problem. Second issue is the depth of the squad. We know we have our starting 11. We know that talent is there, but I just feel there is a tremendous drop as you bring in those bench players, especially in some key positions. And I think because of that, perhaps players are feeling like they're not being challenged for their spot, so they don't have to go harder or try more. But we need to develop a deeper pool. I think one of the things that hurts the U.S. men's team is when you look at the U.S. women's team and their program. If you just take the last year, for instance, with Emma Hayes and the women's team, she had a camp where she had we'll say the A team. She had a camp where she had the A team. She had a camp where she had the B team. And then she had a camp where she had developing players. All in the course of a year. So she was able to see who she has now, who she has in the immediate shadows, and then who she has for long term. By being able to do that, she knew exactly what she needs to develop. If she looks at her pool and realizes, oh, you know what? We need more holding midfielders. She knew that now and can address it before you even get to the next World Cup, before you even get to the next big competitions. Also, she had the youth teams training alongside the national team so that they can see what it's like to train. And I guarantee you she was watching those young players and say, okay, who's putting their hand up to be called up in that group? The men's team, I just don't see that. I don't see where that next wave of players is coming from. Part of that is a setup in the U.S. Part of that is we've just never been able to identify as a whole an entire group. We have players here and there that come up, but just not the whole as a group. Players ready to come in and just kind of, okay, we've had this wave of players. Now we've got a whole nother group ready to come in. Until we can get there, this team will be lacking. And then the final thing I want to bring up is the youth system. Our youth system has to be better. The clubs have to do better. Currently, I feel the youth and club system is out to make money. They are not out to develop players. We need to start looking at a model where the first thing we do is develop the player, and then everything else will follow that. If you are a club that is consistently developing top players and getting those players, not even to the national team, but getting them into higher clubs, into colleges and things like that, then players will come. Until we can get to that level, it's just not going to be there. My name's Rod. I want to thank you for joining the Skyvoff channel. Please leave your comments below. Please subscribe, and we'll talk again real soon.